And we're here for this special Halloween episode of OMG JK. I'm Jason Kincaid.
And I'm MG Siegler. The first thing we're going to talk about today is, once again, the Verizon iPhone. There's more talk of it in the news this week, and also a little bit about the white iPhone. So talk a little bit about Verizon, this latest bit.
So we've been hearing about the Verizon iPhone forever, like literally years now. It's like clockwork. We hear another rumor about the Verizon iPhone coming, and
right.
then, it doesn't really happen. This time, though, it seems like it's finally coming.
Well, there have been like 15 confirmations in the past, several weeks or whatever.
There were some fairly strongly sourced rumors before now, but now it seems like everyone's come
just
to
stating it as a fact.
And more important, there was just an interview with the CEO of Verizon, who spoke about the history of Apple's relationship with the Verizon.
Yeah, opened up a bit more than he ever has before, and obviously he wouldn't be comfortable enough to do that if he thought it was still a question of if they were going to get it or not.
Right, and so I think the big question then, now that we've established that this is most likely coming in January, is how does this change the landscape?
I mean, it's huge, I think. Not only, so it's huge for the iPhone landscape itself because it kind of restructures, like if people are thinking about buying it, now they have two carriers potentially that they could look at. But I think it restructures, Android as well because they've been so reliant on Verizon as, their big, strong partner. And now if Verizon starts putting marketing muscle behind Apple to sell, the new iPhone, of course they're going to keep selling Android phones on Verizon. They're going to have, the option to sell both. But it's like, what happens there?
Do you think that a lot of the people who may want to get a smartphone may have already purchased an Android phone? I feel like a significant... obviously there are people who still haven't gotten their smartphones yet.
Yeah, I think that the majority of people still haven't gotten a smartphone. I think a lot of people are still using feature phones. They're still waiting. They were on the fence. They hear a lot about the iPhone, but they know that it's on AT&T only, and maybe their family's already on Verizon or some other network, and so they're kind of... I think this is going to swing, millions more people for sure onto the iPhone on Verizon.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think that the iPhone, if two people are standing... I mean, we'll see what happens when
that'll be interesting in the store when they do it, side by side. So you've got the Android phone, you've got the iPhone. Which one do you choose?
We don't know entirely what the comparison is going to look like because Gingerbread is coming out very shortly, and the UI is supposed to be better. Right. But my hunch is that side by side, the iPhone will probably win out, if only from a hardware perspective. I mean, the iPhone, the iPhone 4. The physical device just seems nicer than any Android phone.
Definitely.
Although the Samsung Galaxy S is good. Supposedly the Nexus 2, which may or may not be.
They're okay, but they're nothing compared to the iPhone 4. But the one advantage, or maybe advantage, that Android does have is the fact that this is in the middle of Apple's cycle for this because, they do it every June, they release a new iPhone. So they're basically going to have the iPhone 4 on Verizon, which will be something that's in the middle of its life, kind of getting towards the end of its life already. So it's like, will people be on the fence then thinking, well, maybe I should just wait for the iPhone 5 or whatever they're going to call, the next version of the device.
Right.
And that kind of goes into the other part of this, which is the white iPhone.
Right, which may be the biggest blemish on Apple's record that since the Apple Hi-Fi or whatever that thing was called. But for those who haven't been following the story, Apple promised the white iPhone. I think it was like a week or two after the black one came out.
Well, initially it was going to be around the same exact time as the iPhone 4 launch.
And they pushed it till later in the summer.
Then they pushed it once, and then they pushed it again until the holiday season, or until the later half of 2010, I think. But then, now they're saying that in the spring, which is ridiculous. I mean, are they really going to launch it like 2 weeks before they release the iPhone 5 or whatever?
No.
Yeah, there's no way.
John Gruber wrote an awesome post. It was the anthropomorph.
It was like a screenplay version of, like an iPhone walks into a bar.
I know that word, by the way.
So, I mean, that makes a lot more sense. If they're going to do two colors, they'll wait to do, it on the iPhone 5. The problem, supposedly, this has been talked about a lot, like, what is it? Because I actually used a white iPhone at the unveiling of the iPhone 4. They had them just sitting there on the table. Looked fine to me. But the problem is that, I guess, if you try and take a picture with it, it's the problem with the light leaking in. For a while, it was...
The thing I don't get about that, though, is I saw that same report, and it said that Apple identified this during a special meeting with case manufacturers or something. But I feel like during the testing process, this might, how did this not come up?
I don't know.
This is Apple's flagship product.
I know. Maybe they just didn't do enough testing on the camera itself. They just thought, oh, well, it's going to just perform the same as the the black iPhone.
I guess easy for me to say, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I guess this brings us to our next topic, which is the new, what's it called? The Nook Color.
Color.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think they're just calling it the Nook Color.
Which is not anything like the original Nook because it's a LCD screen,
right,
which actually makes it more like the iPad. Than
it's kind of like the Nook completely rebooted because they weren't doing as well as the Kindle.
Well, I don't think they're rebooting it. I think they're doing two totally different product lines
that
are supposed to be geared toward. It just seems sort of weird because it's totally opposite Amazon's approach.
Right.
Amazon is. If you get the Kindle, the device, it's always the one with the e-ink screen. Obviously, they have apps that run on the other platforms, but now I feel that by segmenting its own product, like you've got people saying they want the Nook,
right,
and then the color screen, because they're so different, the products.
I think there was a guy, Marco Arment, one of the guys,
right.
The Tumblr and Instapaper guy. He wrote a pretty good post about it. I thought, like, if someone walks in or doesn't even walk in, is online shopping, and they're thinking, well, I want to get an e-reader for the holidays for a loved one, and they just look at the specs. Aren't they likely to go with something that's in color versus even if they have no idea about e-ink? Most people have no idea that it's true. Like a better reading experience or whatnot.
On the other hand,
think,
I
great
feel like
color.
People who read often may have an idea.
Yeah, of course, some people will.
In my experience, I think people who prefer reading on the iPad over on the Kindle are nuts. Like I've read a lot on both, and I think that the e-ink display
I agree with that,
hands
but
down.
The convenience factor is going to win out in the end. They might, I don't know, who knows what future technology they'll have to make it better reading, on the iPad itself. Maybe there'll be some new backlight technology or something. But I think the convenience factor still wins out in the end.
I'm not so sure. I mean, I own both an iPad and a Kindle.
And so do I.
And I bring both.
The selling factor, the big selling point right now of the Kindle is that it's such a good price. And it even should come down a little bit more. If it was $99, that thing would just be a massive seller. But now, this is kind of interesting for Amazon because it puts them a little bit into a corner because they have no color product whatsoever.
I don't think they're even going to try.
You don't think they're going to try?
I think they made a conscious decision. They'll have their applications running on the iPad or any other platform that comes out, and they've done a pretty good job covering you've got Android, iPhone, the desktop, and then for people who want their dedicated reading device, they're giving them the device that is optimized for that. I think Jeff Bezos wrote a letter.
I think that eventually they'll have to go with color, though. You don't think?
I disagree. I mean, so what are they going to put on that? From a software perspective, I know they opened the Kindle up to applications. I don't think that's getting a whole lot of traction.
Right.
Certainly.
But there's already been talk. I think there was a New York Times report a couple months ago even, that talked about they're working on other tablet devices, other types of hardware devices, because they've seen some success with the Kindle and they want to do other things, beyond just books. They want to do other kinds of things. I would bet that eventually they're going to go into color. I think they've got to. I mean, people are going to look at these things, and so a lot of people recognize that e-ink is better for reading, but they're just like, yeah, but I want to, check Twitter, in the middle of all this stuff.
Well, in any case, I think the color Nook, I don't think it's going to do that well.
Yeah, I mean, the Nook is kind of meh. And the final thing we're going to talk about today is Ubercab, which was a big story over the weekend because they got a cease and desist letter from the city of San Francisco, and I think actually the state highway or transportation department, I think it was. And so that's a big deal because this is a startup. This is a small startup.
So I think we should first go over what Ubercab is because I don't know if everyone realizes it. So my understanding, I haven't used it before, but you pull out your iPhone app, or I guess they have a mobile website too, and it basically connects you with a limo driver. It's not a limo service.
Not a limo, right?
It connects you with existing limo services,
right.
or rather, the more
like
specifically the drivers,
a
town car.
Yeah.
And then you can pay through that, and you can also leave driver ratings, and they can actually rate you.
You ratings, right? Yes. So, and that's kind of a big thing that they've been playing up since the cease and desist came out. It's like we're not a taxi cab service. We are like an actual town car / limousine service or whatnot. And that's true, but it's also, I think, a little disingenuous for what they're going for because they are kind of trying to kill the taxi market. And I think that's smart. I think there is a huge need for someone to do something better in that space.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, in San Francisco, especially, taxis, the situation is terrible.
Right.
That said, I've seen some arguments where, some people are saying this is the best thing that could have possibly happened because now people actually know what Ubercab is.
I think that, yeah.
On the other hand, I've seen arguments that are like, just because you don't disagree with a law and just because there is a problem doesn't mean that you can just ignore the law. Which I think the courts may side with that argument.
Maybe, but I think that this showcases that the law is bogus to begin with. That they're protecting these taxi cab services, which are really just out of date and kind of out of touch. It's like the wording in the cease and desist letter was basically saying like, they're going to threaten some of the dispatchers. Like
huge fines, right? Were they?
And they were
$5,000 per incident.
Infraction. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna charge, if they were to charge Ubercab that, obviously they go to business like right away if they had to pay that. But yeah, I just think it's kind of silly that the idea is that they're protecting the taxi cab dispatchers, even if they have a crappy model that they're working. They're just protecting them.
I'm hoping that you're right. Because, like I said, I really think cabs are broken around here, and I think in most places, it could be way more efficient.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that, despite what everyone is saying,
I think there'll be a pretty huge uproar. I think they're doing a smart thing too. They're reaching out to Gavin Newsom to try and get him to actually step in. And I don't know how much longer he's the mayor for. Not much longer, I don't think. But but he'll be still involved with the government and whatnot, and a high-profile figure. They're reaching out to all these different officials, kind of to get them involved and make an exception to their specific case.
Well, let's hope they win.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of OMG JK. By the way, our costumes are awesome.
Yeah, he's wearing
an old
We were
Android
arguing.
phone.
I don't. He thinks that's a G1.
G1?
I think that's the MyTouch 3G.
Both of which were very underpowered devices, which is why I didn't use either of them. I got on board with it.
I've got the nice, I think, first generation iPhone here with the silver trim, which didn't have antenna problems, but was kind of ugly.
It was
this might be
ugly. That one thing was awesome. This thing was built like a tank.
Well, it's ugly compared to this thing. This thing is so much better.
All right. And I was going for anthropomorphized before, which is hard to say.
Good. Glad you got that out there.
All right. It was just actually nagging me the whole time. Okay, so make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.